Good morning, everybody. Thank you for attending our webinar. We're waiting for some people to join, so just sit tight and we'll be starting in a couple minutes. Hello, everybody. We're just waiting for some people to join the webinar. We'll be starting, I'd say, in about 1 more minute, so sit tight and we'll be right with you. Thank you. Hello and good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the GrayHair's webinar. Don't be blindsided by USPS delivery issues. My name is Bob Tiedegan. I am the Director of Marketing at GrayHair, and I'll be your host for today. So we'll quickly go through some of the things we're going to cover. Let's just do the logistics aspect. This webinar is being recorded. All lines are muted, of course. During the presentation, we're going to ask 2 short survey questions. Actually, we're going to move that down to 1 survey question today because of the time frame. If you have questions, please feel free to put them into the chat window. I'll be monitoring that throughout the presentation. And of course, after this event, you'll get the recording on Friday. And then next week, we'll send you the PowerPoint as we kind of get that launched after the event. So after that, let's get into the details. What we're going to cover on today's discussion is, what's causing USPS delays and really what the future holds. What delivery visibility is available and how it can help kind of solve these issues and reduce stress. How data dashboards can help manage the chaos, and how these can be customized towards your needs, your company needs. Success stories from GrayHair clients. And how data visibility is valuable not only to postal departments, but also multiple departments across your organization. Next, I will introduce your hosts. I'm actually going to let them introduce themselves. So I'm going to hand it over to Josh.
Hi, I'm Josh McCaully. I'm Managing Director of Solutions Architecture. My job is basically to figure out how to make our stuff work with our customers' stuff, but I work with our largest customers to help implement our solutions and help bring them value with the data that we can provide them.
And hi, I'm Moira Mach, Director of Client Operations. I oversee the client success and production support teams. If you are a current client, you interact with our team on a daily basis.
So, I just want to say good morning, and I want to thank everyone for joining us. Just start getting into the topic, right? Obviously, everybody on here is interested in their mail and getting it delivered on time. So, I think what we've seen over the past year is that delivery has not maintained the level of consistency that we've become used to. I mean, I wouldn't say mail's always been the most consistent thing in the world and that it's getting the same delivery time day in and day out, but there's really been very little fluctuation, with obviously the exception of some major disasters and stuff like that, where mail is you can have a general understanding of when your mail is going to get delivered, right? So obviously the postal services mantra over the years was they were always going to get your mail through. What we've seen that is not the case anymore, right? There's been some significant delays over the past year for various reasons, and we'll get into those, which has really affected marketing campaigns. It's affected customer communications. It's cost companies a lot of money, and we're going to get into some of those issues. So recently, there's been a lot of events that have really impacted mail delivery. COVID has been a huge change, obviously, in how we live our lives, but also in how mail is being processed. There's been staffing issues because of COVID at postal facilities, probably at your suppliers or at your own company. But COVID also caused a pretty dramatic decrease in mail volume, particularly marketing mail. And that would actually sped up mail delivery, which we'll show you in a lot of 2020. But then some other things started to happen, which started to slow it down. The Postal Service made some operational changes, and they're going to continue to make them, as they just announced different changes that they're going to be making. There's been some significant natural disasters. Obviously, Texas has been in the news recently that have caused delivery issues, and just general weather. I mean, this time of year, weather is always a challenge, right, in getting mail delivered. The election last year, I mean, obviously saw the most mail-in voting in the history of the country, and that prioritization of that mail and the volume of it had some impact. I think that overall, because the Postal Service was the volume in the overall network wasn't as considerable as it has been in the past, they were able to handle the election mail. There was obviously some blips here and there, but overall it wasn't as big of an impact as a lot of people thought. But in reality, the biggest impact was what happened over the holidays. We saw first-class mail average travel times increase significally, more so than we've ever seen. And it was because the Postal Service was just completely swamped with parcels. Which is due to COVID and how people celebrated the holidays, and that parcel volume really just crippled the network overall, and there were some really crazy things that we saw from that event. And so these are going to continue, right? That the Postal Service is making a lot of changes. The Postmaster General has said that the Postal Service cannot continue to do businesses the way they have been doing business. They're not profitable. They need to do things to get them back into a more sustainable way of doing business, right? And so they're talking about raising prices. They're talking about reducing service. A lot of people in the industry are obviously upset by it. So, we will see how this plays out over the next few months. Maybe we'll see some new bills in Congress and to sort of help the Postal Service and get them in a place where they're not having to make such dramatic changes to their service standards. So just wanted to go over some of the stuff that we saw. This was 2020 average delivery by class. That the blue is first class, the red is marketing mail or standard class. And we can see, how that travel time, or the average travel time for that class of mail, change month by month. And month by month fluctuations are normal, right? The Postal Service obviously has seasonality as, people put more and more mail into the channel, each month, right? But 2020, because of COVID, we saw dramatic dips in volume, and therefore we saw delivery times decrease. But then you can see at the end of the year, it spiked, right? Especially in first class mail, and especially in December. And that's where we saw some really significant impacts that really cost companies some money and had some heightened awareness around how their mail is being processed. This is our yearly reporting. This is across all of our customers, and you can see this is the trends going up and up and up, right? And so, but this is normal. We've seen delivery times increase, over time. But I think that really last year was the picture that was the biggest, which why everyone here, right? It was the biggest impact. It caused a lot of concern. So now we're going to do.
Go ahead, Josh.
Yeah, now we're going to do a poll question. So Bobby's going to start the poll, and you can answer based upon what you see on the screen.
Okay. And we'll give you about 30 seconds to answer. So, and then we will close out the poll, and we will we'll take a look at those answers. And clearly the questions are A, B, and C. No, they're all not A's, but they're A, B, and C. Hopefully you get the idea. We have a lot of people on the line today, so sit tight. Okay, so I think we're good. Anybody last? Okay, we're going to close it out. And then I'm going to share. It'll take over your screen for a second. We can look at those results. Josh, any thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I would say that depending upon the class of mail and what you're seeing, and more so, I would say where you're mailing from, this sort of makes sense. We've seen some instances where, you know, even though there was a huge spike overall for people or with delivery challenges in December, if they mailed out of certain locations, they really didn't experience an impact compared to others.
Great. Well, I will hide that poll out. Going to go.
So, you know, I think there's a lot of people that we've talked to that, you know, have limited tracking capabilities, or they may not track at all. You know, we're obviously big proponents of tracking your mail and getting more data to make better decisions with that data. And so we've, these are some of the things that we found that have happened recently that really make the case to tracking mail and having the appropriate controls and alerting around your mail delivery. So, you know, we've heard some case studies or just instances where leadership of large corporations are now very interested in how mail is being delivered because of how it's impacted the organization. People that have never had to talk to the CEO all of a sudden are talking to the CEO because of mail problems. You know, people are getting calls late in the night, you know, from leadership trying to understand what's going on because they got calls from their customers, right? So it's creating significantly more visibility internally to some organizations. As for cash flow disruption, that's been huge, right? Obviously, if statements and bills are not making it to customers on time, payments are taking longer to come back. There's a lot of work done by a lot of the big financial services companies where they're waiving late fees because their mail is just not being delivered on time. So that is a pretty big disruption to cash flow in those organizations. But because of the late mail, right, people are calling, they're expecting their mail in a certain time, they're not getting it, and call centers have seen significant increases in call volume. People, instead of trying to service themselves through the mail or another method, may be calling instead because they've lost confidence. So, this is going to cause costs to the organization as they may have lower conversion rates. People might have long hold times. They may have to staff up the call centers to handle that type of volume. And then marketing campaigns become less active, right? Obviously, if a marketing campaign is structured or architected to have mail hitting their targeted or prospects on a certain cadence, and that cadence is not able to be achieved, it's going to cause problems, right? And just some of the examples we've seen of this, right, is so in December when we had first class mail delivery issues, if mail is delivered out of certain areas, especially like in the center of the country, they really didn't experience much of the delay. I mean, they had a little bit of delay overall, but for the most part, their mail was getting delivered as needed. But if some of that mail was entered out of other locations where we've seen specifically the East Coast, Maryland and Philadelphia, they had significant delays. I mean, when I say significant, I mean, sometimes mail was sitting in postal facilities and not being routed for 10 days, 20 days, a month, right? Because they were just so backlogged and they couldn't get it. And the Postal Service was processing last in, first out versus first in, first out. Now the Postal Service was caught up, and we've seen first-class mail, sort of get back to normal. But now we're seeing some marketing mail is starting to suffer. Not necessarily because of postal processing issues, although that might be the case, but more so because of a lack of logistics processing. So trucks, lack of trucking capacity, and then other ways of transporting mail. So understanding the blind side, as we call it, is the important thing, right? We've obviously been huge proponents of tracking your mail. It's our business, right? And why is it important, right? The understanding when a piece of mail should be processed, where it should be processed, and when it should be delivered, you can obviously create alerting dashboards to tell you, what mail is in jeopardy, what mail is not, how your mail is performing overall. And then you can leverage that to make important business decisions, right? Maybe being more proactive in communicating with your customers when things start to happen, right? Instead of being blindsided by customers not getting their mail, right, or not being able to and not knowing that you have a problem until it becomes another problem for other parts of the organization. You can get ahead of those problems and be ready to deal with it proactively. And at GrayHair, not only do we track mail as it goes through the Postal Service, right? We can also track as it is moved through other parts of the organization, right? So we can capture what we call third-party events. So as the pieces are being produced, as the pieces are being accepted by the Postal Service, and then obviously as they're processed and sorted, right, to give you more of a full picture of where there might be delays in your supply chain, right? And then understanding that, you'll be able to make better decisions as to where mail should be produced based upon seasonality and trends in getting that mail produced.
Awesome. Thanks, Josh. Hi, everybody. Thanks for your time today. While we are talking about improving our mail delivery, I hope that during this webinar, I receive no deliveries, or you will also be meeting my dogs. It's a new world out here. All right. So the right platform. For me, I think the biggest takeaway that I heard Josh say is that we must track our mail. Having access to our mailing data is critical. Generally, the cost for a tracking platform is pennies to the overall cost of a mailing, and the return on investment is significant. There are many different providers out there that have their own solutions, but the GrayHair solution also comes with a dashboard. Having responsibility for all of our GrayHair clients, I would like to walk you through our platform and our interactive dashboards. All right, so the first step in understanding your mail data is to ensure you have the full picture. So our GrayHair solution combines your job level data, the IMB, the USPS data, mail.dat information, and as Josh previously mentioned, the possibility for your third-party mail manufacturing and or pre-sort operations data can be consumed and then shared within these dashboards. I had a client recently share that they used to have to log into 5 different sites, and now with our GrayHair solution, all of their data is in one location. As you will see in the next slides, you have the ability to see your data, but also interact with your data. All right, the GrayHair Mail Track Analytics portal or map gives you the keys to your data. You have the ability here to filter down by mail start, mail end, your campaign or job. You can specify only a certain set of jobs. You can choose by mail class, or you can choose within a specific job or jobs only a few versions. So right here you see the full breadth of the jobs that were tracked during these dates. And then you will see the overall IMBs that were assigned, and then the scan data that is coming back from the USPS. The delivery scan events are also calculated here. If you have reply quantities and reply mail coming back, that also would display on this kind of home dashboard that you see. You then have the ability to tell where your mail is and where it and how it's delivered by the different codings within this map. You can see the early, in-home, and late information, how mail is traveling, the in-home, the tail of the mail right here, and then your address quality. Your NICSs and COAs are listed here as well. Our platform has been around for, oh, go back, Bobby, sorry. Our platform has been around for about 20 plus years, and we've heard client feedback and market trends, and all of that information gets brought in and affects the dashboards that you see. Today, we have over 20 dashboards that you can interact with, and I'm going to highlight a few in the next slides. All right. The client and industry dashboard provides you with the ability to compare various time periods, but as you see here, you can compare your mail against the gray hair industry performance for those same periods. Gray hair processes over 20 billion pieces of mail a year. And this dashboard was driven by the events in 2020. Our clients were hearing, like Josh said, from their executives asking about their mail. They were calling in the middle of the night saying, hey, the USPS delays are trending on Twitter, and every news outlet, what is happening to our mail. So this dashboard spotlights those trends and helps keep that conversation with your senior leaders going while we answer those questions. All right, the projected in-home delivery. All right, so the projected in-home delivery provides a calculated in-home status based on the last USPS delivery scan of the mail. It allows for the understanding of when the mail might arrive based on an in-home date that is provided by the mailer. Within the dashboard, you can compare campaigns and versions individually or in sets to other mailings. Recently, we had a gray hair financial client that wanted to test when mail arrived in home. That client took half of a mailing in one version and dropped the mail on February 5th and 6th, and for an in-home of February 12th through the 16th. And the other half of that mail was held to have an in-home of February 17th through the 20th. By using this projected in-home delivery dashboard, our client compared the job, the first version on the top section and that second version below. This dashboard can help marketing mailers obtain a higher overall campaign effectiveness. All right. The delivery performance dashboard is the key to understanding when mail arrived. The dashboard includes the dashboard includes 5 dashboards with levels from the USPS area down to state and the 3-digit zip code. Our financial customer that I just spoke about next went from that slide to this slide, this dashboard that you see here, and they were able to freely move from state back up to NDC, down to SCF, back up to NDC, down to state, going within their data and interacting with that, giving them the knowledge that they needed to optimize their mail plans. All right. The inbound mail dashboard. For mailers using reply mail, the inbound dashboard helps you understand when and from where by state you can expect reply mail to arrive. This dashboard is very popular with our direct marketers, nonprofit, and financial clients. As Josh shared earlier, our financial clients use this dashboard to track payments as they are coming back to the lockboxes. All right. Our single piece lookup allows you to search for an individual piece of mail. You can use the customer's full name, IMB, or unique ID for your search. And in this slide, you can see all of the scan events listed. The first two are from, or three really, are from the pre-sort processor, actually the first five are from the pre-sort processor, and then the others are from the USPS. Our insurance industry clients use this data for proof of USPS acceptance for regulatory mailings. And a client contact I helped implement with GrayHair 8 years ago called the other day because an executive had walked into her office and asked about a single specific piece of mail. She, however, had forgotten about this single piece lookup tool and was trying to use the dashboards to pinpoint whether or not this person could have gotten their information. I reminded her of this functionality. She was super happy and was able to go to this screen, search for that piece, and be able to provide back to her executive all of the proof that he needed to answer the questions that he was receiving. And the last note on this slide is that you will also see if you do receive an ACS or address change service hit on a piece, you will see that listed there below. You can see on 2/26 that piece of mail received a ACS event.
Well, thank you, Moira. Thank you, Josh. I think we're going to come to the questions part of our webinar. I will be monitoring that. So if you guys can just put anything question-wise in the box, I will ask them of our. We do have some questions, so let me just pull them up. The first one is, do you have any reporting that includes periodicals?
I mean, our tracking solution can track letters, flats, and periodicals, so that data would all be available. So if you're talking about the industry data, we generally don't show that, the periodical data for the industry, but we are able to track it.
Okay, good answer. So here's the next one. I was trying to understand the delays better. I'm going to read this verbatim. We are talking about delays with mail going out or coming in. Are we talking about mail delays going out or coming in, or both?
I mean, we saw issues with both, but I would say that the majority of the delays were outbound mail. So as mail was being entered, and where we saw it considerably was mail entered into specific locations on the East Coast was sitting there. Mail that was actually being, processed through the network and then processed through those locations didn't seem to be getting as affected as mail that was directly entered by large mailing service providers in those areas.
Okay, thank you, Josh. So this person asked, I was trying to understand campaigns. Are we talking about marketing campaigns as an example?
So a campaign in our world could be considered a lot of things. It could be considered a job. It could be considered a campaign. It's just the mailing, right? The way we have our data hierarchy in our system is that we have a client, and under clients we have lines of business. or divisions. And then under those, we have mailings and/or campaigns and/or jobs. It's all the same layer. And then under that, we have versions. A version in our world is like an aggregation of pieces that have similar mailing criteria, right? Like it's the same creative or the same list source or whatever it might be, or mails on the same day from a specific location. And then within versions, we have the pieces themselves. And so we use that hierarchy to make sure that we're storing data in the right locations for customers. So when they log in to see the reporting, they can say, hey, I want to see all the statements that mailed in the month of December, right? Or I want to see everything that went for this marketing campaign. So campaign is just a term, but it can mean a lot of things based upon how you mail your mail.
Yeah, and I think based on client, we use those, right, interchange. We have some clients that will call something a job, other clients that will call it a campaign. So we list both of them on the site, you know, just so that you are comfortable with the terms that are normally used in your world.
Okay, thank you. We'll go to the next question. We should just cancel the webinar, just go all questions next time. So, and I think this one's for Moira. What is the biggest concern that your clients are seeing dealing with the USPS currently?
Yeah, I think for us, what we're hearing is obviously the overall delivery delays, the possible postage increase that could be coming, and just the overall uncertainty. But Josh pinpointed, mentioned it earlier about, you know, some of those executives are walking into our offices asking questions that we never have seen the visibility that the, you know, mailings and campaigns are now seeing within a company. So I think my clients are heightened to everyone now being aware of what they do within their organization.
Okay, thank you, Moira. Next question. How often is GrayHair data refreshed from the USPS?
Well, that depends. We're getting data from the Postal Service every 10 minutes. You know, generally the bulk of the data that we receive from the Postal Service is coming in, you know, more so in the evening. We do get data during the day, but it's not as significant as the data that we're getting at night. And so we are trying to constantly update our data available for reporting. You know, some of the data is updated and refreshed, you know, within an hour of it being received. Sometimes it could take a couple of hours, you know, to be summarized and available on the website. So, you know, we're always trying to do better at making sure the data that we have is as real time as we can get it from the Postal Service. Keep in mind, though, that as we're getting data from the Postal Service, it's generally a few hours after it was actually generated by them, meaning like it could have scanned at 4 a.m. and we may not get those scans until 7 a.m., for instance. So.
Great, great. Look, we'll keep going. We'll keep going. We still have people online, and a lot of them, so we'll keep asking those questions.
Great.
This is I'm going to call this one a toss-up. The dashboards are configurable by how the client set them up, correct? Version-wise, for example.
Yes. So they are configurable ultimately. Well, the filters are configurable, right? You can go in and select specific jobs. You can select a specific mail date, a class of mail, and or a version, if that answers your questions. But yeah, when we implement a client, the first thing we do is start to talk about reporting, because that is obviously critical to the success of a client launch. So how they want to end up reporting and seeing their data is the first thing we do, so that we set them up so that when they log in to access that data, that it is valuable to them.
Great, thank you, Moira. Next question. I should have numbered these. Question number 32, I think. What is the data retention period at GrayHair?
Well, that depends on the contract we have with the customer. And so data retention can be, you know, as short as 90 days or 120 days. And then we have other customers that have asked us to retain data for 10 years. So again, it's just contractual when we work those out with customers.
Okay, good. Short, quick answers. Next one. if a customer is mailing a payment via first class mail back to us, is there a way that the tool can track that?
Yes, so that is our inbound functionality. The client has the ability to create a unique IMB for that piece that is coming back, or a non-unique for a segment of jobs that are coming back, and both of those are tracked. I shared that slide. They can have access to that, and they can see either 7 specific unique IMB'd envelopes are coming back, or they can see approximately 10 non-unique envelopes are possibly coming back from the state of Texas. It is tracked by state coming back. But yes, we have clients that use that and are very successful in pinpointing where that piece is coming from, and when they can expect to receive it in their lockbox.
Okay, great. Thank you, Moira. Next question. Please explain informed visibility, or IV as we call it, and how does that work with GrayHair?
Yep. Unless Josh, you want to take it.
Go for it.
Okay, so informed visibility is and jump in if I say anything incorrect, but when we launch a client, right, the client has a mailer ID, they have their CRID, right, and we want to receive these scan events associated to that MID that they are using. So you would reach out to the informed visibility team at the USPS and create a request for us to receive those scan events under that MID. And that is the information that Josh was saying that we are receiving from the USPS every 10 minutes, possibly. And so we set up that implementation within the informed visibility site, and then we ensure that that scan data is coming back to us, so that then obviously it populates your reports.
Great. And the beginning of this question is not related to what you just said, Moira. In other words, I don't know where this person led this off. In other words, if you don't include versions in your job setup at the outset, you won't be able to track at the level. Is that right?
That is correct.
At that level. Okay.
Yes. Yes. So if you have, we have clients that do one job with no versions, and then we have a client that does a monthly job with multiple versions. The client that did one job per, and I think they're probably referring to the slide that I showed where you can compare by jobs or by versions. So if you have one job with no versions, you could compare that to another job. Or if you have one job with multiple versions, you can go in and compare by version. But whoever's asking that question, right, if they are a current client, reach out to our client ops team, and we will help you and change the way that you're processing if that is not working for you.
And just questions in general, if anybody has any questions even after we finish, they don't get them answered today, or they think of one post-webinar, always feel free to respond to any emails we send out with the question, and I will work on it personally, hopefully, to get that answered for you. So the next one is, I think this is a good Moira question, how do we get set up for the dashboard?
Yes. So as a client, we go through the implementation, and part of that implementation is asking who needs to be have access to that, to the dashboard. So the client might, like my main client contact might have access to all jobs, and so that person's access would see every single job, and then that client might have 5 lines of business, and I'm just going to use Tina, Bob, Mary, and Jim only want to see their specific line of business jobs, so we would give them access to their lines of business. And then you might, and then a vendor could have access to only their associated jobs. But yeah, it's part of the implementation, and we train you on that, and then we can retrain when new people come on or you have additional questions.
Great, thank you, Moira. What kind of alerts are available when a piece has been redirected or is taking longer than expected to get delivered? Indicator or fraud for our card mailers. Do I need to say that again?
No, I understand.
Okay, good.
So we do for credit cards, right, or even any type of mail that you would consider to be high value or sensitive, that where fraud could be committed against. We've got some more custom solutions that we put together for that type of mail. And so what we do is we sit down with your team and we understand what your business need might be. And then what we will do is we generate data, and depending upon the organization, right, we might send data once a day or multiple times per day that meet specific information, right? So pieces that are being returned, pieces that are being forwarded, pieces that are being routed to not the intended destination, or pieces that don't see scan information, right? These are all different various things that could trigger to something that may be fraudulent. So basically, when a piece is doing something that it's not supposed to do, right, and then we can create basically a file or information, provide information, of here are all the pieces that met those specific criteria, so that you can take action on those internally.
Thank you, Josh. Do you find that situations in various regions of the country change rapidly? If so, is it really actionable information?
I mean, overall, I would say as the mail is being sorted, and some regions really are pretty consistent. The Postal Service, as a whole, is relatively consistent. Where the variability, or where we're seeing the more volatility now, is more because of a specific or significant change in that area. Now, if it does happen rapidly, right, like what we saw over Christmas, or maybe what we're seeing sometimes regionally, like we saw like in Detroit and some other areas before the holidays, where they had impacts due to staffing because of COVID. Are you going to be able to necessarily change the mail that's in that site, reroute it somewhere else? Probably not, right? There's not a lot you can do, but you will be prepared to at least know that there is an impact on that mail and what steps your organization may be able to take to deal with it. The other thing you can do is maybe decide to reroute information, right, or reroute the mail, right? So if you have multiple suppliers that can produce mail for you, and you're seeing that because of one location where a supplier is located, they are experiencing significant issues, if you can reroute that to a different location, then that's probably a good functionality to have, right? So you can try and deal with these types of scenarios as they pop up. So I think what what has happened right now is just shown the value that mail still has within organizations, right? With communicating with customers, it's highlighted that, and it's really now saying, should organizations have more controls, more ways to measure and understand how that mail is being produced and being delivered, and then being able to sort of have more DR plans or capabilities to handle these types of disasters.
Great, thank you, Josh. I will let me see if there's any other questions. I think that's our last question, unless anybody else has any further questions. Throw it up now, we'll answer it. And I think now is a good time to close out. I'd like to thank everybody for attending today. I'd like to thank our speakers as well for diving into this topic. Everybody can expect that recording to go out tomorrow, and some more information to go out next week. And of course, if you have any further questions, we can be of any further assistance, please don't hesitate to contact us. Thank you very much, and have a great day, everyone.
Thank you.